It's time. Gather round. We're back after a brief hiatus. This is the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. I am your host for all 120 episodes because this is episode 120. Rob Fanzo, joined once again by he only enjoys caramel macchiatos, Matt Rode. That's not true. You don't even enjoy coffee. So.
Yeah, I was going to say very false. Although I will say that I was sipping Jillian's cold brew caramel with like salted foam or whatever when we were when I was helping her move out.
Yeah, that stuff is good.
Yeah.
So I don't get Starbucks very often at all.
Yeah.
But I figured since I was in the hospital this past week, I would treat myself. So
you were in the hospital, Robert. What? Why?
Yeah. So let me tell you first that this is a PlayStation podcast. And if you like what you hear, you can join us over on patreon.com, as well as Podbean, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. Please go rate, like, and subscribe our little podcast. We appreciate it. It helps to keep the mics on.
Yeah. And tell them why it's super important now that they join our Patreon.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not going to twist anybody's arm. A nice review is all I need. But, Matt, this past week, I was getting ready for us to record actually on a Friday of all things, which was the funny part. I think I told you that I wanted to record on Friday because of last Thursday. I don't remember exactly what I was thinking then. And I said, well, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, it was going to be like a Friday afternoon or something like that, right?
Yeah, I thought we'd do it differently this time.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't because Friday morning, my wife woke up and we had to go to the hospital because on Saturday night, I had a baby.
Oh, snap.
Hey-oh.
Congratulations. Mazel tov, as they say.
Yes. Thank you. She is 25 days early, or was 25 days early.
Crazy.
Preterm or preemie, as they call them.
I mean, how early do they have to be for it to be preemie, I guess?
I think anything over like 2.5 weeks is considered preemie, like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so she was actually 3 weeks and 4 days early based on the due date. And she was 4 days. So she's considered a late preemie because she just missed the cutoff, I think, of 3 weeks. Like if you're right under 3 weeks, you're not early.
Okay.
I mean, you're not premature, I should say. You're not because everything's early. But you're not premature. 3 weeks and over, you're premature. But she's considered late premature.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
But she's like unusually long, I think, because she's only like 5 pounds, 14 ounces.
Yeah.
But she's like 19.5 inches long.
Yeah. Now, for our viewers, how many controllers is that?
I think that's like, I mean, I didn't measure the PlayStation controller, but when I put it up next to her with her little feet curled up, literally like 2 PlayStation controllers is the length of her body.
Wow.
If her legs were stretched out, it would be, I think, 3 PlayStation controllers.
Okay. Yeah.
And so,
pretty tiny.
You know, if you think about those charging stations, they have like 2 PlayStation controllers next to each other.
Yep.
Basically, that's the size of my baby. Right?
Yeah.
So a little bizarre, but anyway, so we missed a week last week. Obviously, we're recording this on a Thursday. So the week of, I just got home on Monday. And so it's been a little chaotic. And I thought, well, what am I going to do about the podcast? And then today I felt like during nap time was a good time to do this. So here we are.
Smart.
Yeah. So anyway, Matt, we're going to talk about lots of things this week. We're going to talk about, of course, The Last of Us Part 2, just our initial impressions, because that was the funny part. I got my digital copy Thursday night and I was super pumped to play it. I stayed up till like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that would be the last good night's sleep I got till Monday night. So unfortunately, when I got up at 7 and I was like, man, I'm a little tired today. I'll just sleep in tonight. And my wife was like, oh, I think we have a problem. I was like, uh-oh. And I did not. I stayed up all Friday night into Saturday with that, trying to get her to go into labor. And then Saturday, obviously, you're trying the same thing. And then Saturday night finally happened. So, but then Saturday night, you're not sleeping because you're like, is the baby breathing? Right? Because it's only a couple hours old.
Yeah.
And it's premature. But anyway, so funny part is that I got a couple of hours in. Now, I did get to play, since we've gotten home, I got to play a little bit more. So we'll talk about our impressions. We'll talk about anything else we've been playing. We'll talk about, obviously, the games coming out this week. We'll talk a little PlayStation 5 and Crash Bandicoot news. We'll talk a little bit about Warner Brothers and stuff like that. And I also wanted to touch on and talk really a little bit more in depth about this petition with The Last of Us that I sent you an article about the other day.
Okay.
I just want to touch on that a little bit more in depth because that one's, I think, I have an issue with, and we'll talk about why. But first, I do want to update people that we are up to at least 350 PlayStation games on the PSN, 346 to be exact.
Ooh-wee.
I think last week there weren't any, if I remember correctly. Like something weird happened. I didn't think there was. I think they skipped a whole week, if I remember correctly. But anyway.
That's the real reason we didn't do a podcast. They didn't have a drop for us to read.
So by the time you're hearing this, we're going to talk about the games that came out this past week, right? So that they're already on the store for you to buy. But we'll get there towards the end of the episode. Matt, first, let's always talk about what we love to talk about, and that's what we've been playing. And I know I mentioned a little bit about what I've been playing, but talk about what you've been playing.
Well, that's right, Robert. We do love talking about it because we like to play video games. What can I say? I had kind of like a busy, hectic week myself with everything going on. But I mean, of course, I made time to play Last of Us. I was actually surprised at how little you had gotten through, considering you had stayed up so much later than me on that night. Because I think I played maybe an hour. I was just like, I can't do it. I'm going to bed. And then I got your text at like 3 in the morning my time. I was just like, oh, okay. All right. So yeah, I was kind of surprised at when you told me where you were. I was just like, oh, wow. Okay. It definitely didn't take me that long. But of course, I still missed things like an idiot. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, and I think that was my problem. I was thought I was being thorough.
Yeah.
And then I looked at a collectibles guide for what I already played. And I was like, oh, I missed 3 collectibles already. Are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, of course, Last of Us Part 2. Oof, man. Good Lord. We'll talk about it later. But then, of course, yeah, Rocket League and Fortnite. I don't really think I played anything else that I remember. I've just been kind of relaxing or going out for walks. So I've been really focusing on that. I don't know if you saw my post on Facebook, but in the past month, I've lost 22 pounds. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Trying to keep that momentum going.
I haven't seen a whole lot of anything, to be honest. Like the world could have been burning and I was like, I'm having a baby.
Right. Yeah. You're in your own little world, which is fine. You're allowed that for sure.
Yeah, I'm getting reintegrated.
In the little time that you've had, what have you been playing? Because you did have time to play some Switch games, did you not?
So it was funny because my sister-in-law, my family, my in-laws kept texting us and like, look, what do you need? We know that, you're trying to induce labor. You're trying to get going. What do you need? What food do you need? Because I was free to run out if I wanted to, but I don't want to leave.
Right.
And then I'm at Chick-fil-A and my wife's like, the baby's coming,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
One of the requests I said was, well, if you're stopping by my house, grab my Switch. I didn't quite say that to them because they wouldn't know what that was. So I simply said, the blue and red thing that's laying on the bed has a case next to it that's gray. Put that in there and bring that to me. So I was working on Ori and the Blind, or was it Ori and the Will of the Wisps? What's the first one called? Ori and the Blind Forest? Ori and the Blind Forest. Because I had that on Switch and I played through a lot of it. Mm-hmm. What I didn't realize was I'm so close to the end. I'm like one mission or one area away from the end. And so, yeah, so I had 2 areas left when I started in the hospital. I've got 1 area left now. I didn't really play that until my daughter was born. And then since she's a premature baby, she sleeps like 18 hours of the day, even more than like a normal baby would.
Okay. Interesting.
And so she was asleep. My wife was asleep after all the work she had done. And I thought, well, I'm awake for once. So I'm going to play some Switch. So I sat in the hospital room and played some of that. I played a little bit of another side-scrolling shooter with the name escapes me in a moment. It's a roguelite one. I want to say it's called Black Future 88, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I don't think that's right, though. I'd have to look at my Switch. That's not right. Because I have Black Future 88 on there. It's a different one. Anyway, so I played a couple different games. And then I came home finally. And after a couple of nights of not sleeping, I thought, I'll go play some more of The Last of Us because we're going to record a podcast I need to play. So I played another 45 minutes of it the other night. And then I fell asleep while I was playing almost. So I was like, I can't do this, And then I played a little bit this morning. I got like 20 minutes in before the baby started crying. And I was like, okay, good thing this has a pause button.
Yeah.
Because I'm also trying to get my wife to let her have some free time to get some stuff done. So
yeah, of course.
I was on baby/remote play, which remote play is a beautiful thing with a baby. I want to say Sony's remote play is beautiful. I have my laptop sitting next to the crib. I was watching her. I was looking at the screen playing. I could pause it, and all I had to do was stand up to get to her. So
yeah,
eventually, I hope she'll make the transition where I'll be able to play in the game room that I have set up next to her. But it's a little hard wheeling that thing around the house. So
yeah, especially because you don't want to wake her while she's in it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's really all I've been playing. It's my obviously being in the hospital for 4 days. My gameplay time dramatically decreased.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to try and get back into a rhythm this week where I can make sure that I have all my time with her and then get into the sleep rhythm that she's in where I get enough rest for once that when she is sleeping, I have time to actually play.
Right. Yeah.
Because she's more of a little potato right now. She basically doesn't move, right? And so yeah. I don't have to worry about her crawling anywhere. Right. If she's on her back and swaddled, she's set.
Yeah.
I'm going to get back into it. But that's really about it for me. Just those 2 games. And we'll talk about The Last of Us here shortly, along with some of that news. So, and our thoughts on it. Speaking of the news, though, Matt, shall we get into it?
I think we should, yeah.
All right. So I've had lots of time while she's napping, obviously, to look at news articles around the web while I was, sitting there holding her one arm. Because she's like the size of a football. Not quite. She's a little bigger than that, but I can hold her like a football in one hand and have the phone in the other if I need. So I've been putting some, news together for us in these documents. So let's get through this stuff here. I'm going to ask your thoughts on some of these. So PlayStation 5 had a big review earlier in the month. We've been hearing a lot about next-gen upgrades. Microsoft has it's called, I believe it's called, like, what's the term they use for it? Smart delivery?
Correct. Yeah, where you can get the game now
upgraded for free.
And upgrade for free. Yeah, smart delivery.
Yeah, so smart delivery, it's just a fancy term. PlayStation seems to be having the same thing. So I think this is going to be a next gen first for both consoles. I don't remember them doing this from PS3 to PS4.
No, definitely not.
The likes of Cyberpunk 2077, Destiny 2, and FIFA 21 are all offering free updates to take advantage of the new hardware. It was released this past week that Marvel's Avengers will also be joining them. So if you buy Avengers on PS4, you'll get it free on PS5. And it comes with a bunch of enhancements. Developer Crystal Dynamics speaks of near instant load times, 2 graphical modes on Sony's next console. One's going to beef up the visuals. The other targets 60 frames per second. Action at a dynamic 4K resolution. So that's adding to a growing list. I wanted to know, what are your thoughts on this as a whole?
Well, my question would be, is it really PlayStation or Xbox's decision? Like, wouldn't it be the studio's decision to be like, we want to give this to people for free if they buy?
I think Sony has to have some sort of say, though, since it'll be on their stores, right? Whether or not they want to work through the back end.
Right. Yeah. So then they have to recognize that you have it or something like that as well. Okay. I guess that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm glad that they're doing it. I was, when Xbox revealed that, I said I would be shocked if Sony didn't copy that. It doesn't make sense to not just do that for people if that's what, if that's going to give Xbox an edge. Why wouldn't, how much work does it really take for them to be able to do that? So might as well just give it to people that way, right?
Exactly. And I'm a little surprised that this didn't happen last gen, but I guess maybe the tech wasn't in place. I have no idea. Maybe it's the growing digital trend. I also think it's because this is the first time heading into a new generation that I feel like there's a lot of big games coming out in the fall.
Yeah, agreed.
I think with 2013 and with PS4 heading into that, I think there was some games coming out, but not to the degree that I feel like there is now. There was no equivalent of Cyberpunk, Avengers.
The only thing I can think of really is Last of Us.
Right, exactly. That's my thought too. And then certainly games like Destiny 2 makes sense because Bungie has basically said, we want to support this game for another 5 years at least. And so you can't just do that and not have the new consoles included.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I know Rainbow Six Siege will probably do something similar. And I think this might be the difference between last gen and this gen is that last gen you didn't have as many live service games.
Right.
There's something important about if you want to have a live service, you don't want to split your user base and you certainly don't want to make people pay for a live service game again.
Oh,
who've been devoted to it for years. So
right.
I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to point that out to people. I thought that was really important. but I also think it says something because Avengers got delayed, Cyberpunk got delayed. And so these games that are coming at the end of the generation now, all of a sudden it's who wants to buy it if you're going to get the PS5 version of it on your PS4?
Right.
And so they're losing sales. Whereas if they say, oh, buy the PS4 version and get the PS5 version free, you'll have people who will still hold out. But then you'll have people who will go ahead and go, well, you know what? I might as well buy it on PS4 because I'm going to get it free no matter what on the next gen.
Right. And they're still going to get their money. And
Exactly.
They get their money sooner, basically.
Yeah. And so the sales look better and they don't look soft.
Right. Exactly.
Speaking of games coming out that are, I can't even believe I'm saying this, that are near the end of a generation, we're getting a Crash Bandicoot game. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, has officially been announced. The trailer looks incredible. It's the first proper game in the series since 2008's Mind Over Mutant. It sees a return to the original style of gameplay, and it looks like it's a direct sequel to where Warped left them all the way back in 1998, which is so bizarre to think 22 years later, we're getting a kind of like almost like a direct sequel.
Yeah.
Right. And this is clearly as a result of the revival of the character with the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, the Crash Team Racing, which I really loved. It's About Time. So it's going to be a whole original adventure. It's going to have Crash, Coco, and Neo Cortex. And it seems like it will once again center around time travel, and that Cortex will once again be the villain who has been spending his time plotting revenge against Crash Bandicoot. Are you excited for this, Matt?
I haven't watched the trailer. I don't know why. I completely forgot. I saw that it was leaked, and then you sent me the thing with the trailer, and I forgot to watch the actual trailer. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I mean, I really did like Crash Bandicoot growing up, and you're right to think of it like 22 years later that we're getting a sequel. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, I think it'll be great.
Yeah, I'm excited. There's a really cheeky part in the trailer where they say something like, have you ever fought this guy before? And they say something along the line, Crash says something, or one of them says something along the lines of, yeah, like twice or three times. And they're like, that's it. And so I thought that was kind of a clever nod to like, that's all the games there have been. There have been more.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy to think of.
Yeah. Now, speaking of games that are either going to be end of the gen or next gen, Eurogamer has added a lot of weight to a rumor that we've been talking about for a long ass time, Matt. And the publication said that Batman Arkham series developer Rocksteady, who did the Arkham trilogy, and their last game was 2018, if I recall correctly, is going to release another Batman game that is indeed based on the Suicide Squad. One domain name in particular stuck out called Suicide Squad, KillTheJusticeLeague.com, as being apparently considered as the game's final name. It's quite the title. It kind of gives you an idea of the project's scope. And according to Eurogamer, it's still a while off, so don't expect to see much of it anytime soon. However, don't be surprised if we see a bit of, and this is again according to Eurogamer, a bit of Gotham Knights at Warner Brothers DC Fandom event in August. And so both these games seem to be developed for PlayStation 5. It sounds like Suicide Squad 1 from Rocksteady might not be till 2022, I would guess, at the earliest. I'm just picking a date. But it does sound like Gotham Knights is going to be a little bit closer. And I think that's what has been teased by WB Montreal for like the last year, when they'll like tweet something out very randomly and then not say anything else about it. And so are you excited for any more Batman games?
Yeah, I mean, I always did like the Batman franchise. I mean, I think I'm more excited for Rocksteady's take on Suicide Squad than maybe the other one. But I'm not saying that I won't play, the other game. I mean, I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah, somebody who's tried to platinum. I don't think I platinumed the first two Batman games. I think all I was missing was the combat challenges because they were insane. The second one, I think I was missing Riddler trophies because there was just like too many. I did platinum the third Batman game, Arkham Knight. And so, yeah, I'm super pumped about this. And I hope WB Montreal doesn't get overshadowed by the Suicide Squad one, because WB Montreal did Arkham Origins. And it's almost like they kind of got dismissed for that one. But that was one of my favorite of the three. Even though the combat was a little clunky comparatively, it was still really, really good story-wise. So we'll see what happens. We'll wait till August, I guess, to find out. That's not that far away, though.
No, it is not.
No. More PlayStation 5 news incoming. Jim Ryan seems to be kind of doing a little bit of like, let me rub your shoulders here for fans up ahead of PlayStation 5's release. The executive was recently talking about how important it is that it's emphasizing value with its next-gen system. He told the BBC, we must be more attentive than ever before to ensure that the overall value proposition in terms of the console and the games, the range of games, the quality of games, the quantity of games, makes this something that our community aspires towards. Now, that is interesting to me. To add to that, it says, according to a new report from Digital Foundry, there's quite a bit to consider in terms of like the 2 SKUs we'll probably have. The removal of the disk drive, Digital Foundry anticipates, saves the platform holder around $20 in manufacturing costs, which is not much. I think that they will probably want to go ahead and knock off at least $50 to make it more tempting to get a digital. Because if it was $20 cheaper, I don't think anybody's going to buy one sans disk drive for $20 difference. I think we're looking at between a $50 and $100. But what say you about Jim Ryan's little quote here and, the cost of what this thing could be?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like $20 is inconsequential, to say the least. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like the drive, especially an ultra Blu-ray or whatever it would be, ultra HD, UHD, like Blu-ray player, like those are pretty expensive. I feel like it's weird that it would be $20 difference for manufacturing costs' sake. But maybe it's a thing where the digital one comes with a bigger hard drive.
Maybe.
Or an SSD rather.
I thought about that. And I worried that it would be silly to charge the same price point for 2 different models. Because I think the goal of the digital one is to get people in who don't want to spend the extra money, who don't care about their discs.
Yeah.
But what do you think about him saying about that it's important that they offer value for what they're going to charge consumers? I don't think they know the price point yet, but I think they know people aren't going to be happy with it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You have to look at the components that they're putting into it. These are not cheap materials these days. Especially with the solid state drive, everyone wants flash memory because that's what cell phones use, right? So everyone's kind of clamoring for this kind of data and these kind of drives. So I get it. It's going to be expensive. Supply is low, demand is high. That's how the world works. It's going to be expensive. But if they have a proprietary system where the games look that much better than the Xbox One X, or Xbox Series X rather, I feel like that's the value he's talking about. Okay.
So you think he's kind of maybe talking about the value in that regard and not, so a combination of the value of that, the amount of games that we're going to have for launch, and then the cost of the machine, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the value is that kind of threefold. You know what I mean? Like it has to be worth, if you don't have good exclusives coming out for it right away, the value immediately drops because why would I buy it now if Horizon's not coming out till March 2021? You know what I mean? I'll just wait, but if you have something like, Miles Morales, Spider-Man Miles Morales coming out with it, then people are like, oh, well, maybe I will pick it up early,
Right. So I guess in thinking about that, just for another moment here, what I'm curious about, or what I do wonder, is we were told a while back that the cost of manufacturing seemed to be about $450. Remember that article?
Yeah.
We did not know then that there were 2 different versions.
Right.
Which version do you think they're talking about costing $450 to manufacture?
Oof. It wouldn't surprise me if it was the digital, to be honest.
Right? I wondered that because that drastically changes the narrative, because then you're talking about, do you sell the digital? Because here's my thought on this. Do you sell the digital at $450 to make let's say $449, right? Take that quote unquote penny loss, right? Because it would be $449.99.
Right.
And then make up for it in the fact that digital games, especially since you're only going to be able to buy digital first party games on the store and they can dictate the price point for those very easily without having cuts by, third parties like Amazon or GameStop or stuff like that.
Right.
Do you just go, okay, the software in the long run will make that up and we'll sell this at cost? Or do you try to bump it up a little bit? But then if you bump it up to let's say $4.99, so that you're $50 profit, what are you putting then your PlayStation 5 disk drive at before you get to, that $600 price point that everyone has scarring memories of from the PS3 era?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Because here's the thing. Like, if you go by, also there was that leak from, what was it, Amazon France, that had that like leaked the price points and like the supposed release date. Did you see that?
I saw Play Asia had a placeholder of $6.99, which we obviously know it won't cost. I didn't see Amazon France.
I think it was Amazon France.
It wouldn't be surprised.
It was $4.99 and $3.99 euro. Now,
Okay.
I guess they converted that, and that would have been like $570 American. But then the one like YouTube video I was watching was like, yeah, someone converted that, but realistically, when they do, when the system comes out, they still just make that the price across the board. You know what I mean? They don't.
Yes.
They don't convert like that.
It's typically converted if you're going to be spending. So if I wanted to buy it from a European retailer, they would convert for me, right? But if I bought it over here, it would be, that equivalent. So I don't know. That's a weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Like, I feel like realistically, if the $450 manufacturing cost is the disk drive one, $500 makes sense as far as, what
it does.
$50 profit. I feel like that's about right for, I think, what the PlayStation 3 was or 4 was, right?
Yeah.
I feel like their profit margin was pretty small on that as well. So, I mean, I'd be okay with that. I expect to spend $500, to be honest with you.
Me too. I think most people do. And I think Sony is actually I wouldn't be surprised if somebody at Sony's like quietly trickling out these different prices, right? Like the $6.99 that Play Asia put. Now, obviously they did that because they anticipate not costing more than that, because they can always refund your car, but they can't charge you a second time.
Right.
I think that's a good level indicator that it's not going to be above 700. I don't even think it's going to be above 600. I can't even imagine it being $599. I really think they're shooting for that $499 price point. And then maybe $449, like I said, for the discless. And the reason that that's even more interesting is we didn't know there was a discless to begin with. So if we were talking about that $450 price point and that was the PlayStation 5 with the disc drive, then $499 makes sense, because then you make $50 off of each disc-based system. And then you can sell the discless one for $399, like you saw that leak.
Yeah.
And you pocket probably even $50 there, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or you lose a few dollars, like I said. And if you're losing that money, that's fine. You know that on the back end with the digital sales, you'll always make it up.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, I will be shocked if they release something at a price point that is at cost or below. Well, I don't think they take a loss, honestly.
I swear they took a loss with one of the systems.
Really? I don't know. I mean, I think what's throwing me for the loop is that $20 that you just read. That doesn't seem right to me. There's no way that this drive only costs $20 extra.
Well, don't forget. Okay, so the key with that Digital Foundry thing is they said raw manufacturing costs. If you think about what's marked up based on shipping, consumer price point, store getting a cut, think about your drives, what they might cost normally.
Okay, yeah.
That's not what it costs to make it.
Okay.
And so if Sony's it's just costing Sony $20 to make it. Yeah. But they say, but markup would cost to pass on to the consumer at $60 or $70, right?
Right.
Then they can afford to knock off $60 or $70 and not bat an eye, because they really only lost $20, right? Or they broke even, depending on how high they were going to mark it up.
Yeah,
anyway.
That makes sense.
So we'll see. It's fascinating, and it's I don't know. I just can't wait. I think Microsoft is waiting for Sony to go, and I think Sony's waiting for Microsoft to go. I think we'll find out Microsoft's price point first in July when they have their event.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be the first to announce their price. I think Sony's teasing these prices out there to kind of get a reaction, because I think Sony knows that so much of a console's initial life cycle sales really does boil down to price point.
Yeah. Because we haven't even seen the digital version of the Xbox, correct?
No, we don't even know that it exists. We just hear rumors of something called Lockhart.
Right. Yeah. We assume that it exists. But yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. It'll be pretty interesting to see exactly what happens with that and how they'll kind of go with it. Do you think that Xbox could get it under both of them?
I think they'll do Lockhart at $399. And so that's why I think Sony has to do this at $399.
Yeah.
For their digital. I think this will be the first gen where the price parity is exactly the same. I think we'll see $3.99 for digitals and $4.99 for discs.
Okay.
Because $100, that would make a huge difference in some people's influence. Like $50, kind of like, even at $50, I kind of go, I'd rather have one or the other. $100 makes me pause and think, like, how badly do I really need that? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Because $100 is a game and a half.
Right. Yeah.
So you're talking about 2 launch titles. I walk away with, I have an extra $100 to put towards 2 launch titles, and I can get either an indie or, like, let's say Miles Morales, since it's Uncharted Lost Legacy size. What if that's $39.99 and then you got another launch title for $60? There's my $100 right there. I got 2 games to play digitally at launch. So I don't know. We'll see. It's a lot of speculating. I'm sure we will find out by the end of July. I think they're just waiting for Microsoft to, quote unquote, blow their load and show everything. And then we'll go from there. All right. So while we are waiting for July's 2020 PS Plus games also to be confirmed is important. It's worth noting that Sony's subscription service will celebrate its 10th anniversary next week. So by the time you're listening to this podcast, it will be the 10th anniversary of Sony's subscription service, PS Plus. The Giant introduced the membership on the model on the PlayStation 3 way back in I believe it was 2011 or 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. It was very different. Not only was it optional, but it mostly consisted of free themes and PlayStation minis. Do we think they will do something to celebrate their 10th anniversary next week, for us this week when you're listening?
Yeah, I think they
maybe
do.
some free themes and avatars.
I mean, they could have anniversary themes with avatars. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe they just say, you know what? Here's Horizon Zero Dawn for free.
Oh, wow. Wouldn't that be a punch in the gut? In a good way.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Speaking of which, today is Thursday, right?
It is.
Do we not know what's going on yet as far as the games for next month? Shouldn't it have been announced yesterday?
Oh, because they usually announce it the last week of the month.
The last Wednesday of the month. Yeah, I thought.
I've not seen anything.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen them do that before. No, I actually didn't see anything. I'm looking. Nope.
Yeah,
no.
See June.
Yeah, nothing.
Okay.
So this may very well be leading us into next week, and why they may have they may do something special.
I got a notification from the app saying download your free games this month.
Right.
And usually that's the day before they announce the new ones.
Right. So we've got to think that something big is coming up.
Oh yeah. What if they have four huge games?
That would be incredible.
Oh man.
We'll see what happens. All right, let's move on. Ready at Dawn, responsible for the Order 1886, a launch title for the PlayStation 4, has often been talked about creating a sequel, and there's been a desire in several circles for them to create a sequel. However, don't hold your breath anytime soon, or at least for them to develop it. The developer behind the PlayStation exclusive has been snapped up by Facebook. The company explains that the newly acquired group will be joining the Oculus Studios team, and they'll continue to work on the VR platform, which they've already shipped 4 titles on, starting back in 2017 with Lone Echo. So, although the Order 1886 was not exactly received fondly, it seems to have garnered some sort of cult following since then. Sony does own the property, as they own any IP that they publish from a studio like that, but it's anyone's guess whether or not they'll actually have anyone revive it. And being that we didn't see anything at the reveal event, I don't know that we will see anything.
Yeah.
So I just don't see that. I feel like that reveal event would have been a time to maybe tease us with something.
Didn't I say that could be a possibility? That was like my shot in the dark, that there'd be a new order.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people have wanted that, and I've wanted that. And you could call it Order 1888, use Jack the Ripper as part of it, and that would be fantastic. But don't hold your breath anytime soon. All right, Matt, this next one caught my eye as something unique that I did not expect to read this week. Fans who are going to try and hack the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Network, regardless of whether or not Sony wants them to, are being enticed by Sony to embrace that idea with the PlayStation Bug Bounty Program. So Sony, as a manufacturer, is willing to pay $50,000 or more to anyone who can uncover critical security flaws in its console and online network.
What?
It also is offering smaller bounties to its array of websites. Quote, to date, we have been running our bug bounty program privately with some researchers, explains Senior Director of Software Engineering Jeff Norton on the PlayStation blog. Quote, we recognize the valuable role that the research community plays in enhancing security, so we're excited to announce our program for the broader community, end quote.
Wow.
Any thoughts?
I wish I was a hacker.
I know. I thought I better start Googling some.
Yeah, good Lord.
I better start taking my PlayStation apart and trying to mess with that software.
Yeah, I wish I knew how to hack things. $50,000. It's a year's salary.
For some people, it's more than a year.
Yeah, good Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, that's smart of them.
Yeah.
Have the hackers work for them.
Yeah, and there's a huge emulation community out there, and they figure people are going to try to emulate the PS4 eventually anyway. In fact, we spoke with an emulator, right?
Yeah.
And Homebrew Cooker a couple months ago, and Emerald Nova. So, if he's listening or if any of his friends are listening and you need some help, Matt and I are available to help you break down the PlayStation 4 for that bounty.
Episode 103, if those listeners want to go back and listen to that.
Yes. So that's kind of cool. I thought that was really fascinating and not what I expected to read today.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of things I didn't expect to read or think about today, it's been a while since I actually thought about Genshin Impact, which, if you recall, is an open world action RPG from Chinese studio Miho. I think I said that right, Miho. That kind of rubbed people the wrong way because it looked exactly like a Breath of the Wild ripoff at first. There hasn't been much information to go on lately, but it seems like there's an upcoming beta test. PlayStation 4 users can look forward to the final closed beta starting from the 2nd of July. As detailed on the PlayStation blog, players who take part will be able to explore a portion of the map, let you check out the serene city of Mondstadt to the majestic region of Lahu Harbor. You'll be able to play solo or invite some friends for up to 4-player co-op. I know this game upset a lot of people, but I am personally looking forward to it because it looks like a mixture of Code Vein in terms of its characters and maybe a little bit of its combat and Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
So I'm excited for this one. I know it's a Zelda ripoff. As somebody who's played about 15, 20 hours of Zelda, I have a really hard time getting into it. I know that's blasphemy in some circles. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Breath of the Wild is amazing. I think the problem is I just recognize that I don't want to spend 200 hours in that world.
Yeah. Well, I also, what was the one for the Wii originally? I started that and I was just like, after a little bit, I was just like, okay.
Awakening?
Maybe. The one where you can turn into a wolf, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
Can you turn into a wolf? I don't know.
I don't know. Are we not a wolf? I don't own a wolf either.
I mean, you definitely can't have a wolf now with a baby like that. You know?
No. I have 2 cats. That's enough. Yeah. So if anybody's interested in that, you may want to see if you can get to be part of that final closed beta. I personally would like to be able to check that out. So we'll see. All right, Matt, I know you're a huge Assassin's Creed fan, so this next one's for you. Valhalla is still in development and it's due to its launch later this year on PS4 and 5. Later this year to launch on PS4 and PS5. But creative director Ashraf Ishmael has revealed he's leaving the project. Now, you may recognize him. He did some work on Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, and Assassin's Creed Origins. He said, quote, I am stepping down from my beloved project to properly deal with personal issues in my life. The lives of my family and my own are shattered. I'm deeply sorry to hurt everyone in this on a Twitter post. He continued, there are hundreds of talented, passionate people striving to build an experience for you that do not deserve to be associated with this. I wish them all the best, end quote. And so sorry to hear him go. Hopefully everything is okay for him. But it sounds like the game is probably far enough along at this point that it's doable for him to step down. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, if you're having like serious family issues, then you have to deal with that, or personal issues. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
You gotta. I mean, a job's one thing, a video game is one thing, but when it comes to real life and situations and your family and personal issues, I mean, those should still come above everything else.
I agree 100%. So we wish him the best. We'll see what happens from there. he can always come back too and do like Zack Snyder did with the Snyder cut. He can just do the Ishmael cut.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Ishmael cut of Valhalla. So, all right. Speaking of games that we may not see for a while or that we haven't been thinking about, I know that tried to tie that in with Genshin Impact from earlier. Tales of Arise, which I'm kind of personally excited for, even though I've never played a Tales game. It is the next entry in Bandai Namco's long-running Tales series, has been hit with a rather vague delay. It was first announced at E3 2019 with a pretty awesome-looking trailer. The game's been kind of quiet ever since then. Back in January, we did get it rated in Korea, leading to the speculation that launch was close, but it seems that nothing is going to come of that. As of a new update, Bandai Namco wrote, quote, while COVID-19 has affected some aspects of development, we've done our best to adapt to the situation and have implemented remote development capabilities for our team. However, we need more time to achieve the quality and provide the gorgeous experience we envision for our players. And therefore, we decided to delay the launch timing for Tales of Arise, end quote. Now, it was supposed to launch, Matt, originally in 2020. It's probably going to be 2021, if not like later. They did say a new launch window update will be provided once we have more details to share. I was a little surprised, to be honest, by that. The only thing I will say, obviously I kind of would like to check that game out. I was a little surprised because there are there's lots of companies moving remotely. And so something makes me wonder if they just didn't have enough done in studio that it's made the remote aspect of it more difficult than they anticipated. Because Cyberpunk moved remote and it's still, it got pushed back a little bit, but, it's odd to see something like this get pushed back with an indefinite window.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of indefinite windows, Biomutant. I don't know if you recall that game or not.
I do.
Yeah, it was caused quite a stir when it was announced a couple years ago. It was pretty exciting looking. We haven't heard anything. Now, publisher THQ Nordic and developer X101 have reassured us that it is still very much making progress. And they gave us a 10-minute gameplay trailer that shows combat, exploration, trading, crafting. It has no release date, but it says, quote, it's coming when we're happy with it, end quote. That's what creative director Stefan Lundquist told IGN. And he told us that it's also in the end phase of development and they're currently focused on user experience and primarily squashing bugs. And so, he goes on to talk about being a massive game with massive challenges and wanting to do things right. So I don't know if we'll get that by the end of 2020 or not. I would love that one though. That one looked really awesome.
Yeah, every footage I've seen of it, I'm just like, ooh, yes, give me that game.
Yeah. Now, Matt, there's just two stories that I want to wrap this week up with. The first one is that Sean Layden, you may remember him. He is the former wonderful one of the heads at Sony, right? Who recently stepped down within the past year. He was doing an interview a couple days ago. I'm sorry. It'll be a week by the time you hear this podcast. And in that interview, he was talking about, and he called for the industry. And this is from gamesindustry.biz. He called for the industry to examine the trend towards bigger and more expensive games, describing the AAA model as just not sustainable. And I wanted to read some parts of this article to you because he did an interview with GamesBeat Dean Takahashi, as part of Game Lab Live. And the talk turned to Last of Us Part 2, which he praised. And he said, that if a game can make you scream and yell and be horrified, those are the easy ones to get. But if we can make you contemplative, sad, that's really hitting the full gamut of emotional response to the gaming experience. However, he did point out that The Last of Us, the first one was around 15 hours. And of course, The Last of Us Part 2 takes around 25 hours to complete. The first game was completed in about three and a half years. The second game took about 6. And so he pointed out, and I'll read you this quote, Matt, and I want your reaction after this. He said, the problem with that model is it's just not sustainable. I don't think that in the next generation, you can have those numbers talking about like the $80 to $150 million that it costs to make most AAA games and multiply them by 2 and think you can grow. I think the industry as a whole needs to sit back and go, all right, what are we building? What's the audience expectation? What is the best way to get our story across and say what we need to say? It's hard for every adventure game to shoot for the 50 to 60 hour gameplay milestone because it's so much more expensive to achieve. In the end, you may come close. Some interesting creators and their stories. In the end, you may close some interesting creators and their stories out of the market if that's the kind of threshold they have to meet. We have to reevaluate that. And then he went on to point out that consumers expect price points to remain the same. And so if you don't have elasticity on a price point, but you have a huge volatility on the cost line, the AAA model becomes more difficult. I think this generation is going to see those two imperatives collide, end quote. What do you think of that?
Pretty interesting.
I'll tell you that I agree with him. I think that, so I'm going to also taint this with a little bit of the bias of being a new father. But even before I was a father, just being an adult, Assassin's Creed Odyssey was really difficult to want to play, knowing how long it was going to take me.
Yeah.
And you finished it, but you also recognized the amount of work you put in.
I was dragging at the end, yeah.
Red Dead Redemption 2, same thing. Last of Us Part 2 is going to be quite a challenge for me because 15 hours is doable. I'm almost finished with the Outer Worlds before my child came. I almost finished the Outer Worlds in like a week because it was a 15-hour game.
Yeah.
But that was also because I spent more time with it than I'll get to now, right?
Yeah. Is it bad that I'm already kind of like, with The Last of Us? Because I'm like, it's just like survival, right? So like I'm like scouring every inch of every area.
Yes.
And the music is so intense and so tension filled. You're just like, oh my God, I just can't breathe. I need a break.
Yeah.
What's going to happen next?
I would agree with him too, though. We should be paying like $80 for games at this point. But if they told us that every game was $79.99, people would flip out.
Yeah.
But then we expect these games to have these incredible budgets, these incredibly detailed worlds.
Right.
That's only going to get worse with PS5 because of the amount of tech that's now available. And so I think Sean is smart in saying that. How do we get 40, 50, 60 hours experience that take 5, 6, 7 years to make and not worry about what we're going to make on the other end? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
How can we get back to the 12? I have no problem. I loved Uncharted games and those were all 12 to 15 hours to beat.
Yeah, realistically. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I love those. Right.
Yeah, but the replay came in like the trophies and stuff. Like, you having to get so many kills with a certain weapon type or whatever.
Yeah. Devil May Cry 5 was 12, 15 hours. I loved it.
Yeah.
A lot of these games, it's hard. It's hard now. I think there's this idea that you have to have bang for your buck.
Yeah. Look at Senua's Sacrifice, like Hellblade. That was what, $40?
Yes. And that was about an 8-hour experience.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
Yeah. I loved it. It was very well written, very well done, in my opinion. And I'm okay with those kind of games. And
I think, too, that he has a point because when we look at, and I know PSN profiles, well, actually, you don't even have to worry about PSN profiles. Just pull up your PlayStation profile, look at the rarity of the trophies especially with a game that has trophies that are going from chapter to chapter in a game. If everybody who bought that game was finishing it, you'd have 100%. Yeah. If half the people who bought that game were finishing it, you'd have 50%. But when you look down the list of trophies, the longer a game is and the further down those trophies go into the story, very rarely do you see something above 40% for a game. A lot of them hover between 30 and 35%, which means that 1 out of 3 people actually finished the game, right?
Yeah.
Which means that your 3 or 4 years and your 400-man team and your hundreds, if not thousands of hours poured into that game, only a third of people saw through to the end.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have the data in front of me, but I would love to take a game like Uncharted and compare Uncharted 4's final trophy, whatever you would get for beating the game, to Red Dead or Assassin's Creed Odyssey or even God of War, which was kind of somewhere in the middle, right? So
yeah,
I'll be curious to see what happens. I thought that was a fantastic interview with him. And I thought he had a lot of great points with that, especially with this next gen coming up. And I also was very impressed by his beard, but that's a different issue. So Sean Layden, you have a rockin' beard, my man. I could not believe it when I saw a picture of him because I'm so used to being clean cut.
Yeah.
All right. Last story I want to wrap up with, Matt, deals with The Last of Us Part 2, and it can tie into our conversation about our impressions so far. So before I get to that story, why don't we talk a little bit about our impressions? You've only played a little bit more than me.
Correct.
What do you think?
I told you it's intense. I was like, when you were talking about, I think we had talked about like, people you were saying like, oh, I can only play it for a couple hours because it's so intense or whatever. I was just like, that's not going to happen. And I was just like, wow, no, it is. It's pretty intense. Obviously, a lot happens in the beginning. First, 5 hours maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty intense. And it doesn't get any easier from there. And I'm sure it's going to get way worse. I will say, just like in Uncharted, there's a seemingly excessive amount of killing.
Okay, so that was my concern.
Yeah, I feel like there is no way for me to get around some enemies at certain points. I have to like just blast my way through 6, 8, 10 enemies as opposed to just being able to sneak around them and get to where I need to go. Unless it's like a running from the enemy sequence. Right. They always have those, So I really enjoy it so far. But yeah, it is pretty intense. Like I said, I was playing the level the other day or, yesterday, and I was just like, it was later in the evening. I was just like, and the music was just like, so like something's going to get you. Like, like in the horror movies where like, it's like that the tension is building and building and building. And you're like, something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. And it's like that through the whole level. I'm like, what bad is about to happen? And then it's really not much of anything, but the music is so tense and it creates this just atmosphere that you're just like, I'm about to get killed in any second.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed the music is very key in this.
Yeah. It makes it very intense.
Yeah. I would agree with you too. I'm obviously behind where you are because of circumstances, but I will say that it is riveting and emotionally exhausting and very tense the entire time. From what I've played so far, I know that you and I talked privately about certain events that happen in the game that happen within the first 4 hours. And you and I talked about that possibility of that happening. Now, you and I, of course, I know nothing about any of the leaks or what the leaks were about, right? Now, I don't want to say anything here either. I'm certainly not going to go look those up in case it spoils something else for me.
Yeah. After I finish the game, I will go back to the leaks and see, why people are so angry or whatever.
Right. But I will say that the story, and I talked about this the other day with someone, the story of what I've experienced so far feels like if I was writing it, that's probably how I would have written it. And I feel like it was, I feel like I really enjoy when something surprises me. I haven't been surprised yet. Now, granted, I'm early on in the game. Maybe I'll be surprised multiple times, but I do look forward to getting through it all and seeing what happens. The only issue I actually have with it, you kind of expressed, and I expressed that early on. Am I going to get so tired of the killing that it almost becomes cartoonish?
Yeah.
Because I think The Last of Us, the first one, did a nice job of balancing that. You snuck around things. You had to fight enemies, but it always felt like, it didn't feel like there was so many of them that it was overwhelming. I felt like I was fighting as I was traveling. And so it made sense. It wasn't like, oh, here's 600, this gang has 600 people in it and you're going to slaughter all of them, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, another thing for me is I like stealth things. I like to go around like in Assassin's Creed. I like to clear out a fort in stealth. I like to take the time to do that. I have not found a level that you can actually do that here.
Right.
They'll either find the dead person and become on high alert, or wherever I'm hiding, I can't get away from them just quite good enough where, I'm getting attacked or shot at. And then I have to pull out my gun and the ammo is very limited. And I'm sure that's the reason for it, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's very frustrating. And this is, I guess, my general concern and hatred for survival games in general. She has a huge backpack on her, and you can only carry 16 rounds of pistol ammunition. Full, you know what I mean? Like, you're collecting all these things and putting them all in your backpack, but she doesn't have room for ammo. I mean, so that's where the suspension of disbelief bugs me. Or
it's all those trading cards you're picking up.
Right, exactly. Or you go to loot a dead body and they have one bullet. Oh, so if I would have let that guy shoot at me one more time, he would have ran out?
Right.
No. You know what I mean? Like, so it's things like that they're frustrating.
It still reminds you it's a video game.
Yes, exactly. And then I guess maybe that helps me get through it to a certain extent too. It's a frustrating part of it. But yeah, you're just kind of like, okay, well, this is a video game, whatever. I'll just deal with it.
Yeah. So, and so there's where that dissonance comes in, that they want us to feel something. They don't want us to think about the cycle of revenge and the darkness of revenge and the murder. But then they do those things like that remind you that it's a video game. And so it kind of pulls you out of the experience.
Exactly.
As detailed as the game is, yeah, I can see where that would pull you out of the experience. And I think that's where sometimes I scoff at things that are so wonderfully told and immerse me. But then you have this weird jarring moment where it's like, I can't, I'm trying to think of a good example. So I guess maybe a more immersive game like the Souls games, right, are fantastic.
Yeah.
But then it reminds you that you can't jump. So you're stuck. Like if like I normally would climb over that in real life, regardless of what I would step over that, but I can't.
Right. And I think that's why, in early days, I really liked Fallout. Is like, you can pretty much carry as much as you want, but you're going to start walking real slow. You know what I mean? You're going to be over encumbered at some point. And I don't know. I think that just makes more sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's something weird about that. And so I appreciate that. I think there are negative reviews of The Last of Us out there. They're not as plentiful at all. And I think most people forget those little things because they get so engrossed in the narrative. And I'm sure I'll get engrossed in the narrative too. And it'll be a fine story. But there are little things that I think it's worth calling out on, because it's not just because it receives a 10 out of 10 is not a perfect game. It just means that it is really freaking good, Right. And that's something people forget.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece. It doesn't mean it's perfect. It just means it's a masterpiece.
Right. So we won't dive into that here, but so where that ties us into is that there is a petition online on change.org for a narrative reshaping of The Last of Us Part 2 story. Now, I obviously haven't clicked on it because I'm sure it has spoilers.
Right.
And I'm warning anyone who goes to change.org and looks at that petition, you may get the game spoiled for you. What do you think of that? Because for me, this is all too reminiscent. First off, this game is so polarizing. I don't even like talking about it, because the review bombed Metacritic and people bombing, like 20,000 reviews and it being bombed or whatever.
Yeah.
And Neil Druckmann making fun of it on Twitter, and then people get mad at him for that. Where was I going with that? Oh, this reminds me of Mass Effect. When Mass Effect 3, people were not happy with how Shepard's story wrapped up after, 6 years with that character, or whatever the amount of span of time was, 10 years. And people were really upset about that. And they went back and added stuff to the ending. Now, you and I probably know from what we have played that part of that narrative issue is probably what happens towards the beginning too.
Oh, I feel like it's almost 100% that.
I personally felt that. Okay, so there's two things here I want to say about this. And then I really don't know that I have anything else to say, but I did want to point it out. First, if you're going to consider a game, it's a freaking game. Don't worry about it. Two,
right.
If we're going to call games art, then let the artists express themselves by creating or crafting whatever world for us to live in, and quit complaining about it.
That's what fan fiction's for.
Exactly. And so that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I wanted to say about that is that if you are well-versed in movie or literature or any kind of narratives, you kind of knew that, like, I'm not saying beat for beat, I know, but I have a pretty good idea of things that would occur in The Last of Us, because it only makes sense if we're going to drive development of these characters forward that we have to make certain things unfold for them.
Right.
I mean, you watch Westworld, you watch Game of Thrones, you read any good book.
Yeah, some things just seem inevitable.
Yeah, 1984, Fahrenheit 451. There is a lot of inevitability in all of those pieces of literature and television. No matter what happens in a game, we've got to have, or a book or you've got to have something that, drives the plot forward.
Yeah, I'm saying driving action.
I'm fine with the choices made so far.
Yeah. I will say I was a little surprised just because I felt like they did a good job of marketing.
Yes.
So kind of it was a twist for me, but I will say, like, with like what you were saying, I did kind of see it coming as it got like real close, as I got closer towards it. I'm just like, no, like, then you're just kind of like watching the train wreck happen, and you're just like, I don't want to watch.
And
this.
no matter what train wrecks, Ooh,
sorry, Dave, that was a pretty big one.
No matter what train wrecks happen here in this game, and believe me, I'm sure some of them will probably irritate me, and I'll be like, oh, I really wish they hadn't done that. I also recognize that that's part of what's going to make this game great is the willingness to take those chances.
Right.
And so I'm okay with that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with Uncharted 4. Not to spoil that, but if you play the very end of that game, you know that what the next game is going to be about.
Right.
And it's not going to be what people necessarily want, but it only makes sense because after 4 Uncharted, you need something slightly different.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we weren't even supposed to get a Last of Us Part 2. They were content letting that go, and then they realized they could tell more. So, you know, just be thankful you got Last of Us Part 2.
Honestly, I would have been fine with just one game.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
I'll be interested to see how this pans out and how it unfolds completely. But yeah, I mean, I mean, there's a gut punch kind of ending, but that's life. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So that's all I wanted to say about that. But I did want to bring it up because I thought it was important enough to be like a small piece of conversation here about this. And so, Mass Effect, I thought that was ridiculous. And I'll go on record as saying that when that happened, because again, it's artistic vision. I get it, but you aren't going to rewrite the end of Fahrenheit 451 or 1984 or Dracula just because you're unhappy with it.
Yeah.
Don't ask a creator to change their creation because then it's not their creation anymore. It's what you imagined in your head for so long.
Right. Exactly.
All right, Matt, before we move into the games for the week, I just want to mention really quickly that Cyberpunk Nightwire event just wrapped up as we were recording this podcast.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which is a debut during the Night City Wire live stream. It's an anime produced by Studio Trigger, the Japanese company behind Kill la Kill, which fantastic anime, let me say. Kill la Kill is fantastic. And partly behind Darling in the Franxx and SSS Gridman. It's targeting a 2022 release on Netflix and will have 10 episodes. It's a 10-episode story about a street kid trying to survive in a technology and body modification obsessed city of the future. So it's separate from Cyberpunk, but set within the Cyberpunk world.
Cool.
And then Cyberpunk also had a new gameplay trailer that is apparently very Grand Theft Auto, which we will watch after we finish this podcast.
Yeah.
Just wanted to mention that because it was timely, so by the time you listen to this next week, you will have seen it. We, of course, just the timing of our recording didn't work out.
So we usually do Saturdays, so jump the gun a little bit, you know what I mean? Just to figure, you got a baby. We got
anything after 6 p.m. is bedtime for me now. So we got to fix the schedule here. All right, Matt, let's wrap up with what we always love to do with See You Soon.
See you soon.
All right, Matt, so there are still no descriptions. I don't know when these are coming back, but I thought what we could do is, last week we just read 2 or 3 of them. I thought what we could do is read them and then they're only usually like 1 or 2 sentences anyway to describe the game. I thought we would create them on the fly here, a little bit of improv, because you do love improv.
I do, yeah.
And so do you want to start or would you like me to start?
I'm going to make you start because I miscounted and I was looking at some like middle of the list that I like made up things for already.
Okay. That's fine. I'm going to start with the first one anyway because I actually know what it is.
Oh, okay.
So Assetto Corsa Capizone is an simulation racing game out June 23rd for PS4. Take to the streets in the Assetto Corsa Capizone Racing League as you challenge for the cups and other stuff that we like to have associated with those types of cars.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. That sounds pretty good to me. All right. Up next, we got Bounty Battle. PS4 out June 25th. Do you like bounties? Who doesn't? Do you like battling? Of course you do. Look to Bounty Battle, where you can collect the best bounties by battling the best people. Go online and test your mettle as you fight your way through different ranks. Bounty Battle. It's the place to be.
Nice. All right, up next, we've got Coaster on PS4 out June 22nd in America. Have you ever wondered how many different coasters you could put your drinks on? Well, from the creators of My Name is Mayo comes the hit sequel, Coaster. Design, create, and make your own coasters. Select from over 50 different beverages as you look for the perfect coaster to keep that drip and that non-slip on your coaster dish.
Oh, man. I did not expect that to tickle me so much. All right, up next, we got Conan Chop Chop. PS4 out June 30th, or June 23rd, sorry. EU only. This is the crossover you've been waiting for. Conan the Barbarian meets Chop Chop Cooking. All right, you get to cook as the shirtless wonder in barbaric styles. Create traditional barbaric recipes as Conan and prepare them for all of your clan.
Nice. All right. Covert is out PS4 on June 23rd in the EU only. From the stealth team that brought you Covert Ops comes the prequel, Covert, a game about sneaking and stealing whatever you can. Have you taken anything recently? If not, come purchase this and hand us your money. I have no idea. I couldn't think of anything for Covert. Goodness.
It's all right. It's all right. Up next, we got Firefighters Airport Heroes. PS4 out June 24th. America's only. It's the airport. People need to travel. They don't care about the virus. They just want to go places. But there's a fire on the plane. You've got to put it out. Drive the car down the runway before the plane takes off and put out the fires. As the firefighter at the airport, be the hero.
Nice. All right, this one's not as much fun. Hunting Simulator 2 PS4 out June 25th from the duos that brought you the original Hunting Simulator. Now with over 30 different species for you to hunt and kill and 30 different weapons to select from. Will you be able to catch enough for dinner? Come on in. The woods are warm.
Ooh, I like the little ending. That was good. All right. Up next, we got Jump Step Step PS4 out June 22nd, EU only. Jump Step Step. It's only 3 buttons. The game's pretty short.
Nice. Indie Calypse. PS4 out June 26th, America's only. What would happen in a world where all AAA games disappeared? Come find out. Experience the Indie Calypse now. I have no idea.
Up next, we got Little Town Hero. PS4 out June 23rd, America's only. In a world where there's the little towns, you have to be the hero. You have to save your little town from extinction. There's aliens. There's zombies. There's an apocalypse of both aliens and zombies. Be the little town hero you were meant to be.
What's funny about that one, after you start talking about it, is I realized that I think that's an RPG game that is out on PC and is coming to PS4. It might even be out on Switch already. So after you said that, I was like, oh, I bet there is a description for that one. All right. Mad Runner. Have you ever been so upset that you just don't know what to do with yourself? Well, John is. And he's got an axe to grind. Come join John in Mad Runner as he looks to slaughter everything in his path.
Ooh, it got real dark.
I know.
Nice. All right. I thought you were just gonna be like, you ever get so mad you just have to run? Well, this is the game for you. All right. Up next, we have Octonaut. PS4 out June 23rd in the Americas and June 24th in the EU. It's October and you're an astronaut. Collect as much candy from all the households as you can. Go door to door trick-or-treating and get your bag as full as can be so you can get that yum yum in your tum-tum.
Nice. I actually was thinking about an octopus becoming an astronaut there.
That's probably what it really is.
Probably. Pancake House, PS4 out June 23rd, EU only. Ever heard of Waffle House? Well, this is Pancake House. The late night simulator where you get drunk and order too much.
Oh, I took a sip of water and I almost spit it out all over my computer. Oh, that was great. Honestly, I would have been okay if you were like, if you would have just stopped. This is Pancake House. And, yeah, that's it. All right, up next we got Pa Arumi. PS4 out June 24th, EU only. Pa Arumi. Well, you know what these games are. They're like crossword puzzles for dogs, right? I mean, that's pretty much what all of them are.
Yeah.
At least that's what they've been in the past. So I went with the real description in this
there
one.
You go.
Pa Arumi. Go buy it. It's a word search or a crossword, probably. Who knows? It's one of those two.
Fair enough. All right, Party Pumper out PS4 out on June 25th.
Keep it PG.
Have you ever wondered whose job it is to blow up those houses that we bring for your kids to bounce in? Welcome to the only simulator where you get to be the Party Pumper.
Oh my gosh, that was good. All right. Pushy and Pulley in Blockland. Pushy and Pulley in Blockland is out. It's for PS4, out June 24th in the Americas and June 26th in the EU. This is the best knockoff of Cuphead you'll ever see. Pushy and Pulley in Blockland. Play as Pushy, you gotta push him around. Play as Pulley, you gotta pull him around. And then you'll be fighting enemies that'll kill you very hardly.
Fair enough. Rugby Challenge 4 is out PS4, out June 24th. Remember all those other rugby games? Well, here's another. From the makers of Rugby Challenge 1, 2, and 3 comes Rugby Challenge 4. Now with more clubs, more stadiums, more players, more customizable options, including jockstraps.
All right, up next we got SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. PS4, out June 23rd. This is just a remake.
Yep. Come live under the sea in our remake.
Exactly.
Star Wars Episode 1 Racer out June 23rd on PS4. After delaying this game several times, we decided to release it. Come, join a PS2 remastered classic as we race in our pods in Episode 1.
Ooh. All right, up next, Super Toy Cars 2. PS4, out June 26th. If you didn't get enough of Toy Cars, we've got more for you. Collect them, race them, take them to your friends, but in the virtual way. It's like Animal Crossing, but for toy cars.
That's how somebody would word that too, in the virtual way.
Right, exactly.
All right. Now, this one I know a little bit about what it is, so I'm going to give it a somewhat real description. A summer with the Shibu Inu. This doggy dating simulator from the people who made the Pigeon game now have you dating and visualizing dogs in this visual novel experience.
Ooh, okay, cool. All right, up next, we got Tower of Time. PS4, out June 23rd, Americas, and June 24th in the EU. Tower of Time. Do you like climbing steps? I sure do. That's all you have to do. Just beat your best time. Climb those steps and beat your time. Tower of Time.
All right. Last but not least, Ultra Core is out on June 23rd in the Americas, June 26th in EU for PS4. You might have heard of Hardcore. Well, this is Ultra Core. Come join Johnny Smash Hands and Mike Bubblebutt as they smash and butt their way through levels of enemies to find the darkest core.
You win. Your descriptions were so ridiculous. Oh my God. Oh, good Lord.
I didn't even look at these ahead of time. I can't imagine what I'd come up with if I had more time.
Oh, it was perfect.
So that's see you soon. You might want to head to the PSN store if you want to see the real descriptions.
If they're ever up.
Well, the real PSN store will at least have the description.
The store. Yeah,
not the blog. Head to the store. But they are all out this last week. Of course, next week we'll bring you this week's games as well. And hopefully sometime in July we'll have real descriptions that will be just as terrible that we can enjoy once again.
Yeah. Oh,
all right, Matt, that wraps it up for us. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us. Thanks for continuing to keep our lights on. Remember, if you want to support me and my newborn child, I'm not guilting you into anything, but you are welcome to. Over at patreon.com/weare1UR2. Thank you, everybody, for allowing us to do this podcast and keeping the lights on. And Matt, thanks for joining me to continue to do this with me.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
Until next time, game on.
Game on. Pancake House outro music. You better flap those jacks.
I feel like that could be the actual intro music.
Right.